So look at this. It's working fine. So that's what we will do. And then at the end of the day, I guess let's see how far we can go with that first, because it's a lot of stuff to cover. So now, starting with multiple line items, right? So how do you do multiple lines? We looked at one line. We didn't really do the axis stuff, but we will do it now. And we'll see how we do axis for the line charts. We have looked at axis. It's nothing different from how you do with those for bar charts. So it's pretty much same. Some concepts I'm going to go slow because some revisions are needed. So what was SVG width? What was SVG width? Okay, width of the container, height of the container, we know that. Margins, you can have, you don't have to have same margins. You can have different margins. We'll just place, and if you play with these margins, you can move the chart whatever you want. And then this was like, we called it chart width, and we did SVG width minus left margin, right margin. I'll give you the chart width where the chart would be placed. And then same as chart height. We're just calling them width and height here, but that was what we were looking at. The next thing that was really needed was to do a body selection. Body is the HTML body tag in that NSPG. So put the SVG into the body. And then how big or small this should be goes by the width and height of the chart. Of the SVG. And so you have that. We looked at translate, transform, the group G appending. What was this for? Abel, do you remember what this was for? Chart group. Was that? Yeah. Yeah, kind of, but it was actually not 100% that. Correct. Yeah. Translates to do that, and so what it does is it actually gives that space. So we'll look at it with it, without it. This was the syntax for what? Safwan, what was this for? D3, like what am I trying to do here? Oh, CSV. So here, if I look at the donuts CSV, this is giving me date of the donut, and this is giving me morning craving %, right? You know, craving a donut on 19th April, how much %? Evening, this is what it is. If it was a college junior, then it would be 100% in the evenings. So it's just a data set. Now this is a good thing to look at, and time parsing. So right, if I have a file, and these are a lot of such nuances, right? And P3 has a good documentation about it. So you have 30-April. There are many ways you can write a date, right? How we see people writing month first, then date, then year, four characters. Sometimes 2 characters. People can say 2/10/2018 versus 2/10/18. People spell out the month. So for this to work, you have to parse that data. Right? So we're doing integer parsing. How did we parse the integer? There were 2 methods. Chetan, how did we parse the integers? Like if I had a hours integer, right? So if I had where's my, how did we parse it? Percent, yes, percent, and that's one way. And plus sign, correct, both of them, right? So you had the dot hours, and you wanted that to be integers, that, or you had parse things. Similarly, parse time, right, or time parse is funny that you can use both. You can do time parse, and this %d and %b, right? %d and dash %b, %b. And so Why is it like how you would be like, how do I know? How do I know that I need to do this? And then it will read that date. The easiest way is to go and say D3 time format, Google it. I can say D3 time format, and all these links came. And so I'll pick one. I pick the first one. Simply going with the first one or second one. And then if I go look at the API reference, I stop here and I see, oh, okay, well, there are different ways of looking at it, right? So %D, 0 parent day month as decimal number, right? So 0 to 01 to 31. And %B is the abbreviated month name, which is what we have here, right? %B is the abbreviated month name, and then %D is the date as from 01. I mean, there's differences, right? So if the date is not 01, it's just 1 to 31, then there's %_D or %E. So, all these things, you won't remember these, but you'll have to Google and find out how. So that's how you find out what is needed. And then there you go. Time parse %D hyphen, because there's a hyphen in there. They don't spell. Yeah, hyphen. And then with that, %B. Okay. Format the data. Again, formatting the data, you have parse time. You got this. And then you're saying, okay, well, I want to get the date from here. And that was here. Then it has the date now. Date morning plus, and because these are data points, right? So we're just getting these two integers. Okay. Fifth step. I actually want you guys to write down these steps separately later, because these are the steps. Like whenever you're doing the chart, this is the kind of flow that you'll have to follow. And so the first step is always to look at set up the chart, insert the chart, then get the data or parse the data, then create scales. So because without parsing the data, you can't create a scale. Why can't we create a scale without parsing the data, Sydney?
Because they're all combined together.
Yeah, so kind of, right? So because your data is driving the scale for the chart. So if you want to do it that way, because if the data changes, then you can have that dynamic nature, right? So time scale, right? So there are different types of scale. What are different types of scales? Caroline, what is different kind of scale we looked at last time? We looked at some kind of scales. No, mostly scale linear, right? We looked at scale linear. Okay, there is a time scale also, scale time. So all these are functions that can help you do things. For example, here, if you're going after a date, then you go by type scale time, because date is a time type of variable. Okay, here scale height, scale linear is like 10x, scale logarithmic could be a scale log, all of those, right? So there are different, you can Google and find different types of scaling techniques available. So what we're saying is use the date to consider the width, okay? Setting up y-axis. Now, look, we are going to have two different lengths on this chart. One is for the evening. So let me run this first. That will give you an idea. CD. So we go here. This is what my expected output is. I want to have one for the morning cravings and one for the evening cravings. Correct? Trend flow. And it starts on 19th April with 40 and 70. 20th April drops to 40 and 50, etc. So this width, you want to make sure that all your dates are included in that width. Right? So if I have more dates, and I want to make sure that it's including everything. Here, I want to go from 0 to 90, let's say. That's what I'm trying to go for. But since there are two values that we're going to plot, we create first two variables. So this is a technique that we use to make sure that you get the accurate Y scale. Okay. So I have a morning max variable, which is the max of donut data for the morning column. Okay. So read morning. For the evening max, you have max of evening. Okay. Now define a Y max, which is if morning max is greater than evening max, then Y max is the morning max. Else Y max is the evening max. So what it's trying to do is, well, I have two data sets. So let's say if morning max was 90 and evening max was 70, then this if statement is true, Y max will be morning max, which is correct. If it was lower, let's say for some reason, it will go to the evening max. I mean, that should be clear. Yeah. Okay. So now, by the way, here there's a comment, which means if I just wanted to do it without having to do all of this, I could just do variable Y max is equal to morning max greater than evening max. This is a shorthand almost for this. Question mark, morning max, colon, evening max. Not readable enough, but this is exactly doing what all of this is doing. Okay. All of this if statement, this is basically that. Okay. So if you want to get started with this, but this is more readable. I like it better. It's not like we're wasting lines or any kind of commodity here that needs to be optimized. Okay. Now you're going to say Y linear scale. Scale it to the Y max, which is whether it's a morning max or evening max. So what it's going to do is going to start from 0, and since it's Y max, the Y max is going to be, let me open the donut CSV. It's going to be what? 90, because the Y max, when it loops through, goes through all these data points, and it decides that it's 90. So what it did for you is, as the program ran, it went through all the data points and said, okay, well, the Y max is 90. And that's why the chart goes up to 90. So that's very clever, right? So you look at 2 or 3 data sets and you're saying, okay, well, if this is true, it's actually getting you the highest value from the 2 data sets that you need to plot. Okay, so we did that. We got the max of things. Max of Y. So that helped me do automatic scaling on Y. Automatic scaling on X was easy because I had certain number of dates, and I just said that the width of that array is what my max of X is. Okay. Now, so you did that. You got the axis scales right. Now, the next step is actually creating the axis. So you have bottom axis, which is, this is just defining it, and that's from X times scale, so it will give the width of the bottom axis, and the time format is %d%d. So that's why when you run it, you'll see that we'll be getting 20. Okay. So you have that. Axis left is the Y linear scale, which is going to get the Y max. It will go from 0, go up to Y max, because Y linear scale is defined here, and that's that. And then this is where we move like the axis. If we don't do this, if we don't move the x-axis, the bottom axis, by the height of the the height of the chart, or the height that we define up here, the width and height. If we don't move it by that, then this, if I comment this code out here, then what would happen? Francis, what would happen if I comment this code out here? If I don't do it?
If you don't transform it, the access will be up there.
Access will be up there, accurate. Yeah, so access will go up there, right? And so we just want to make sure that the axis goes down. And then y-axis, it's left axis. And so we'll look at how, like, we're also going to plot dual axis. So we can look at like how axis can be moved from left to right, or how axis can be on the both sides. So this is just standard code. Most of the standard code will be super useful for you guys when you start doing on your own kind of custom graphs, okay? But most of the time, you're probably going to, like, the bar chart code is out there, the line chart code is out there. This is only one way of writing it. Multiple small iterations of things, like what people use and what people don't. So this is pretty standard. You can really borrow this and start plotting things for your projects. Okay, now line generator. So how many lines do we need? 2, right? The first line generator is going to be this code, right? Map, D map, X time scale, D dot date. So get all the dates. For that, the second one is the morning data set. Okay, so the first line is the morning data set. The second, same code for the evening data set. Now, chart group, we want to color those lines. So this is always needed. So add a path. So what this is doing is, all these things are actually adding tags, your HTML tags on your code, right? So if you, once this program runs, JavaScript is nothing but helping you add those custom tags. So those tags that, so it's kind of way of generating HTML code automatically every time you run it. So it will append path and it will pass the donut data. It'll say class line green, true. What we'll do is we'll see how it does it. Basically go ahead and add another line with line orange too. And you have a CSS here. Now orange is this, green is this, dot line is 2 pixels. Okay, so the thickness of the line is 2 pixels. If I want to change it, I make it 12 pixels, then I can make it 4 pixels, re-render the code, or really, yeah, so now it's more prominent, right? It was really, did it change actually? Probably did. Yes, so, is this clear, like what's going on? Okay, so there are steps, right? So what I want you guys to do is actually discuss these steps with your neighbor, or go through them on your own, whichever works for you, and try to register the steps. Maybe even think of it as what you would do. Right? So write down, or either copy these and keep somewhere ready. That's your cheat sheet for at least today's class. And I think they're mostly on most of the required work. So, and do you have this code? Solve code? Yeah. Okay, so if you have it, then run it and see if you can render the chart. We'll do 5 minutes on that.
There's a procedure for doing any of these graphs in JavaScript. Because first you set up the chart size, set the SVG.
SVG wrapper where you put the chart, right?
Yeah, so.
And step 3 is creating a chart. Or what's step 3? Or getting the data.
Then you put the data. So what this
For some reason, This operating is not getting it. This copy is so it's not just
Yeah, so then, and then your,
because it has the colors. With colors, because of the gray. So, parsing the data.
so step three
Yeah.
is like getting the data.
But, yeah, so it's importing that CSV file. Yes, if you open up donuts CSV on the, either one, the top one. Yeah, so that's basically you're saying that's how they take numbering dash, abbreviated. So that's what I then,
It's like we're parsing it.
that's what they're parsing it, so then he said, let's see. So let's see first.
So to import the data. Browser.
How about you? Why do we use that? Yeah, that too, like bar chart. I hope you feel better.
Oh, this one, import the data.
Yeah, basically got CSV and then put in the quotes, donuts, well, this is donuts and CSV.
I get the functions, I call an error.
But if I'm it's for the empty spots and stuff.
Error, then you figure it out. You put in the error.
Yeah, like it doesn't need the ESPG, and then you say where to start, like the line.
It's like this is part of the front and after.
Yeah. Like what happens if I do one change on one tray? Then you.
Well, the limits, the throw function limits. Right, so that's step, so once it's, once it's in. Well, just it's like if there's data that's included. See, like, let's see, this is the things here.
Yeah.
And we're
So yeah. You go left.
Especially with time. That's a good thing.
You did follow this one.
Let's see, what it's. So this is what he was saying, these are all these parsing formats. So you put percent, so this one, they had a percent D dash, the dash, that's how it's printed, percent B. So, this is percent D. day of the month with the if there's a zero. So like here, they put, well, there's no zero, but there's a 2-digit number. So, and then percent D is the abbreviated name.
So which one did you use?
So there's this whole list of parsing formats with dates and times.
And then your server.
Depends on the well, yeah, because we want to hear like yes.
It's not, I mean, it's taking forever, right? Sure.
Okay, were you all able to render the chart at least? Okay, so next one, and you have the code for the next one also, right? So the biggest change, and I want you guys to look at this right now. The biggest change on this one is multiple access, right? So you want multiple access, you do everything the same. You set up the SPG the same, you get the chart to move the same, you want to read the CSV the same, you want to parse the date stuff and the integers the same, set up different scales. These are the, this is where it's going to change. You're going to do one scale for one axis, the other scale for the other axis. So what it means is, on one side you want scale linear for the morning variable, and here the evening variable. So your if-else statement that we wrote is not needed. Okay. Then creating axis, you're going to add one more axis with the different scale that you have. In step 7, you're going to, this is how you move the right axis to the right side. So you do transform translate width, comma 0, and then call right axis. So instead of just calling left axis, which is on the left, you're going to move it by the width. And then in last time when I was trying to do it, I did it the other way around. The mistake I did was 0, comma width. 0, comma width takes you on this side. I want to go on that side. So I would say width, comma 0. Because remember, everything starts at 0, 0 at the top left of the. So you need width, comma 0. So x-axis moves to x variable moves by width, and that's where you call your right axis. Okay. Just make sure that you do width, comma 0, and then finally you need 2 lines as you need it. And that's it. So if you move this, so you just have 2 different scales, one for the morning, one for the evening, and then you move your axis, and you have another axis created with the new scale. What does this do, right? So if I run this, close this old one where I had only one axis. I'm going to close that. Open a new one. Open a new one with 2 axes. Or 2 axes. So here, if you see, it took the max of morning and the max of evening. And if you see, it used that. So scale here is 100, scale on this side is 200. Okay. So the scales are completely different. What it did was it actually took the max of each of the elements, not like it went through all of the code and took the max of one of those 2. Okay. So next step, I'll give you some more time to finish your first exercise if you're still looking at it. But then spend another 5 minutes or so, up to 7:15. Go through this. Any questions, let me know. Okay.
A question for you.
Yeah.
Just on this scale.
What?
Well, April 19th.
Huh?
It's morning is 40.
40,
And the evening is 200.
correct.
But, so here's April 19th. So
Yeah.
here's 40.
It's stupid, actually.
And then the,
This is 200, but this line, it is the orange is for 200. So you have to read this one on here. It's not saying. It's doing what it's supposed to.
right, yeah.
Actually, it's not a, yeah.
The right position, but it's just, you have to convert it over.
Yep. Yes.
Just to show it.
Yeah, just to show you what a right axis is.
Because this is green, but it's
Oh.
not.
And that this is scaled to the right axis. So it goes.
So it's not.
Yeah, the orange one is scaled to this line. So like, for example, April 30th. So, April 30th, morning is 60, green is 60, and the orange is 70. So here, the orange goes to 70, and the green is over here at 60. Well, in this case, it's the percentage of cream
Like,
donuts.
like when they're comparing them.
But this is kind of funny, because it's like you have to leave this green line to this side, and it's the orange line to this side.
Yeah. They should put symbols or something.
Well, but it should all, it should probably all be the 200 scale.
Yeah.
It should be
Yeah.
one single 200
Yeah,
scale.
200. So did you try it? Type it in.
Okay, so step one is sound. Step two.
Are you doing the second one?
Yeah, the second one. Okay, create scales.
Okay, so it's here. Set up two lines from the reverse and two. So this is where you do the two lines.
Last time scale. So you have to.
So bar line one and bar line two.
In step 5, did you do step 5? Because they haven't filled in. They haven't filled in all the way up to step 4. So here at step 5, they have the X already in. Yeah, there's two. Yeah, there's 2 Y's.
Do you need to change the scale?
Yeah, for Y. Might change the scale, but set scale.
I might show. I got people to take a thing on Friday instead of just learning.
What does that do again, the range?
So I might, like, maybe I'll just like not show
Look at this,
Yeah, it worked actually.
for Y, okay.
Range. High scale. Is that where graphs is? What size?
I never take
Well, see, up at the top, you
No, it's not actual graph.
okay, the X times next. Next time scale is a very important time. D3 scale time. So what it does, The scale means if you add more data points, it will change the data. It'll change the reference.
So it starts from zero.
It starts from zero and goes to the, so the domain is expressed in the donor data. Date. So like, right now there's like 8 points. So like, let's say you add in 8, it'll adjust the scale of the data. See, like yes, like right now, 19, 20, 23. So let's say you had like 14, 15, 16.
That's what it does. And then the Y scale.
Same thing. It's going from 0 to 100. But let's say you add those two.
And how come you have this?
Agreed. The responsibility. Oh my, yeah, it's very interesting to say, right? It's like one of them.
It's in the Y, like it's setting the max position. So that's fine. Quick question to the section where the gauge scales.
Yeah, I was thinking about this traffic, like you go south from there.
So when you're doing the scales, it says range from 0 to width, and the X scale, so 0 is the starting point. That goes to the width. Now, in the Y scale, it's height
Like the 0, stop.
So, okay, from the maximum down. to
Correct, yeah, it always is like that.
So in the Y scale, we will set the height first, so it goes from that position, and down to 0. In this case.
More donuts.
Yeah.
More donuts. Siri, please go on donuts is inaccurate. Yeah.
In this Y scale, let's say we were doing, like the starting one wasn't 0, if you change that to a different integer, it'll start at, or does it have to be 0 all the time? Like, let's say you were doing something with, the temperature of water.
Good point. Like from or 30 or something like that. I think it's this. What it's going to do? It's going to do a map. It's going to do a map thing, and I don't know how that's. You know how we did, like if we had. It's buggy because you have to close the browser, open the browser again, and then do it again. Do it that way, and then I'll tell you what it does. Close the browser, open and use the incognito window. See what it will do the yeah. It starts. This is called with a map.
It started pretty.
30 pixels. 30 pixels. Yes. Because your height was like 660 or something, and if you do 300, then it will like shrink.
You can go through.
That makes sense, right? Because it doesn't start from zero. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next one. Okay. So the next one is to really get the chart labels in. Okay. So if I looked at this chart here, I don't know what's going on here. Like yeah. Guys, can I have your attention please here? So here, Chris just asked me, how do I know? Where are the labels? Like, I don't know what is what. There's something going on here, but I don't know what. So how do we add labels, right? So adding readability is a key thing. So you do everything that you did the same. You have 2 axes and everything. This is where you can add color-coded even titles to your chart, right? So if you do append text, that's again, these are HTML elements. So if you will have to do append text and translate, this is because you want to have the have the labels in the middle of the chart, right? That's why I do width divide by 2. Width divide by 2. Height is plus margin top. So go from the top margin and move it down another 20 pixels down. So because you don't want it to be overlapping on your axis, you're going to go all the way down height plus top margin plus another 20 pixels. So that's why that. And we'll see how that affects. Text anchor middle, font size 16, fill green, morning donut craving level. Same here. Now you did width plus divide by 2. And this is 20. I'm using 16 pixel font. So I'm at 36 pixels. Okay. Now add another pixel between the second title. Now let's make it sure that everybody gets this. And it will be very clear once we're done. Okay, so here, 04. That's solved. I think 04. I'm just going to make sure. No, 03. 03. Okay.
Both of them.
Look at here. So I wanted to move, I wanted to get these printed. I wanted to get these printed right in the middle of the chart. So I did width divide by 2. And when I move from the top, I'm saying go all the height of the chart. Okay. Plus add another 20 pixels. So I covered this. So it got printed here. The second one, I wanted to go height from the top plus another 37 pixels because what I wanted to do was I already had this 20 pixels plus this 16 pixels font, so 36, and I wanted to add another pixel in there and then have evening donut printed. So that's why the code here is like margin top 37. If I did 40, then it will space out even further. But at 40, yes, it may not render right away, but we refresh in the wall. It didn't, so let me open it up again. Can't really tell with 40 that it added some, but maybe if you go 60, I don't know if we can pixel to 29. That's disappeared. That's funny. Oh, why did it disappear? Can someone tell me why did it disappear? Yeah, it's below my SVG now. Like I added so much that it went below my SVG. You have to do careful calculations. I just have to make sure. If I add too much, then it's going to go outside of my SVG because I don't have that much under my margin. So for that to change, what I'll do is SVG height, I'll do 600. Right? And then my bottom margin, I'll increase it by 600. So my bottom margin can go 160. And let's just handle that. Yeah, it did. Boom. There you go. Okay. So hope that's clear. Play with this for a little bit. See what you can do. Change it, or maybe see if you can add a similar label on this side. Okay. On the right hand side. Okay. Now, I think this next exercise will really take care of all your questions or about self-doubts and stuff. So this is very, very, very similar to what we just did. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to get these dates. There will be a different way of pressing these dates because why? Why, Caroline? Why would it be a little bit different?
Different format.
Yeah, the date format is different, but I told you what the date format can be. Look at, we'll push that link up. This is Dow index. You have two scales. And something weird, Smurf sightings. Okay. Is there a correlation here? I don't know. So I want you to work on this code. This is the final output. I'm going to give you the date parsing code. It will take 20, 25 minutes maybe, but this should be really something that you should try and see if you can accomplish. So, and work with a partner. So only one person possibly codes, unless you have a way to work on your own. This is exercise 4. Exercise 4.
What is the data?
Who wants to go?
Happy if you work in 3 people group, 2 people group. Who's coding? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is we have set up our chart.
So, sign up for your chart.
Yeah. I wanted to make it.
So what? With this exercise and break, let's just plan to be back by 7:45. I mean, we'll check in by 7:45.
So this is called data.csv.
Yeah. Feel free to take a break also if you.
So, okay, we call it index data.
So we have all the CSS.
What is down?
We just copy all them. And then set them as
Okay, so step 4, parse the data. Okay, so let's see what's the data we have. Okay, so the time.
Okay. This is what is the B again?
Okay, so if you, where's that thing? Okay, so let's see.
This is from.
Yeah.
Okay, so
What did it look like? You showed it.
yeah, he's the
What was the amount?
okay, so this is how it is. Let's see. The data is it's
So it's the day.
01 is the day. Then it's got like a abbreviated month dash, and then the full 4-digit year. Okay. So
We have some other days.
so
How it measures.
Okay, so let's see. Let me just,
Okay, day, month. Okay, so percent D.
one second, let's paste this here. Okay, so the parse, the time parse is percent D dash, and then for the month is percent B. And that's
Is that the
what,
month?
yeah.
Okay.
And for
the
the
year.
4-digit year,
And for the year, 4 digit. Year.
okay,
Century and
with century is, okay, yeah, that's it.
There's
Cut it.
plus a decimal.
What even is this clear?
Pretty sure.
What's a decimal number?
Yeah. This one is like a number. So like this is a decimal number.
Yeah, that one is.
So year with century, year without century. Okay, so it's year with century. So this is 20,000. So it's got that. So now format it data. Let's see. Index data for the date, first time, data.date.
So did you just? So you just copy right?
Okay,
So one and then change it.
so here we have down index.
So did you just break it down?
Yeah, I will be fine. Same different format.
Okay. I give it a run.
45, 10, like 5.
So now I have to do it for me.
Name it as PPP.
Yeah.
Today.
There.
It's weird.
It's
So you catch everything, right? Except for the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
It's down index. Down 26.
Well, no, it's usually good. They're always like, I'm like, why do you think? Everything's up there. Okay, telling me now.
Did you name your angel?
You did. I'm not sure how it would work.
Now I understand.
I'm just like, well,
So now we got scale.
I'm just kind of like, so
What is it? Did you name it?
I just think index data.
So actually, it's all right.
yeah, it just links it to Smurf.
So what it's showing is on this date, what the Dow Jones index is, how many Smurfs were cited on that day.
Yeah, that's right. Just we're looking at extent, we're looking at. Just looking at the minimax of.
Complete access.
Do they check for Wait, you're not playing function out though.
Parentheses, bracket, 0,
Yeah.
Save it as. Yeah, see, now we just, now.
I can do it. If you don't want to create it, I don't think it's- if you want to.
Yeah, we're gonna do them, right? So, why on your scale 1? Scale linear, yeah. Domain. Yeah, so it's bucket is D arrow, D dot.
The exercise. Sit.
You thought it was capital Y. So we're doing
Oh, you're one of those. Dance.
Slowly math and. But I usually.
Yeah.
And it's like some food on August, September of last year.
Yeah. It's really feels like it's like yeah, I find
Oh, okay, so it makes the lines. So it has the points because of its name. Just see what his opinion.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Occasional words. Encouragements.
Yeah, you can't share the login.
But you can.
Share.
Listen.
So tell him this one's different.
If you do that,
Use the, whatever you use
Capital line.
Do you know that having enjoyed the constitutors generally works?
Yeah. Okay, cool, yeah, I got you.
Yay.
No, we, yeah, Going to very. Yeah. G, you can use K too, apparently. You always use G.
Should I made a mistake? Not in. I'm confused which one.
Remember, next week should be math. It's fine. Mainly the last. It's just like it is 24 versus 8. That's why that was percentage. Nice. And one. Now, this date month as the data is supposed to be the month is supposed to be. What is the
7%. Way by the side. It's right. Yeah, because that's when deal studies get because at the bottom here, you tell it, oh, then it would say, yeah, but in this regard, I can do it.
doesn't matter which show cases or where it is one.
I feel like I'm trying to change the case, I think, but they'll hurry, so it's going to count. The percentage. Well, yes,
That's something I just found out last time on that, like she has to run.
Oh, yeah. You need something else.
Okay, let's try this together.
Yeah, it was like waiting.
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand what that.
But it is. Why is the one? 2017 or?
for half of one.
20. Yeah, but what we all just go in. I just go in. This one game. I'm not here.
Oh. We're almost there, we're missing one.
That down there, it's no side. Yeah, got 9 times before minus.
Well, as soon as the then cheated.
What? Yeah, it's in 4 unsolved.
We just tried this.
One.
And then we'll use that.
I got it. Let's see here.
you can find the same code as I am.
So what's different in this one and the other one?
I'm getting, I'm not getting out. Sure, let's see, something I'm missing.
Something.
Oh, let's see. Let's see.
I nomination for.
I guess it's nothing.
I'm not getting it.
It's too bad.
Let's go, let's go. So you got it, there's no.
How about you?
I got.
But you know what applications shows this.
Let's see, let's go.
I think it's in my.
Put your.
So it's not a small one. But I open the same file.
Where is it? Oh,
Yeah.
So let's see, let's move on.
I don't understand. That's all. Yeah. So then I live with.
So we got the setup is this, the same setup. Then with the SRG, the same thing. And we import the data.
did we do the same?
Oh, this one I think I forgot. It's data.csv.
Yeah.
Okay, then we go to step 4, parse the data.
That's interesting.
So that's the data DB. Data with time. When you please go back. Okay, time parse. Yeah, same thing. So date. Valid date. Valid data. Valid index.
Did I miss one?
Well, no, it's down index and smurf site. It's not down data, it's down index. So
Oh, did I name it wrong?
yeah, down index.
Oh, why is that? Is that my mistake? Maybe it is.
Possibly.
Wait a minute.
So change that to down index.
Oh, why did I name it? Why did I name it data?
You have to put the other one,
Down
right, Julia?
Down underscore index. Okay, that's data.smurf site. That's the same thing. Okay, then 5 screen scales. Are the same thing, scale.
Oh, yeah, now it's showing one line.
Did you take the?
Oh, did I miss the other line?
Plus data.smurf site.
Okay, yeah.
It's here. We have data, parse the data that day. Then we have data dot down index equals plus data down index. Data dot smurf site equals data dot smurf site. Okay. Step 5 create scales.
So this has to be 2. Step 5. Where's step
I don't think it is a graph.
Yeah, no, just 2. One for the different data, time scale.
I heard it.
Scale time.
But I only have one.
Sorry for
Is
Friday.
it? I only have. Oh, I have one.
Oh, you don't have a process. No, that's not.
Oh, wow.
How many?
I noticed a driving range like 2 weeks ago. So, pretty long. I'm joking.
That's what I missed. Let's try this.
Not too bad.
Oh, I got one here.
I know.
True. 2 weeks ago, I actually golfed, and then last week, 2 times I went to the driving range.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's go keep going down.
What?
Let's go down clean scales. the scales.
They're trying to, so.
Well, let's just see if we can figure out first. You got the axes, you got everything here with a pen. So it's like, okay, set up the two line generators.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, so I think I'm gonna get to the well,
Yeah.
at the country club, so I'll let you guys
First
know.
the name, the title.
And pick up your,
Yeah, I think I'll probably do.
yeah, and then go over to the driving range.
Like wanting first and second line.
Yeah, you have to make that match. This first bill, you should whatever.
We only have one line.
Oh, wait, I just got the second one.
Yeah, you have to add the code.
Add the second one.
Yeah, no, I had to close, but then.
You see what?
So where
I changed what I did was, oh, right here. Like, go to, step
There
in.
wasn't a starter, right?
What?
There wasn't starter.
No, we just copied
Okay,
it.
see,
Well, I get-
Just copied
see, I
it.
changed this to line blue. Small thing, yeah,
Gotcha.
105, changed it to line blue. And, one, took the letter changed to line blue. Now save.
Okay, why was that?
I don't know why, but I did it.
That was listed like back then.
So it didn't render, it did not render,
So let's see, why is it saying?
it did not like the line board.
It wasn't,
Because it was orange.
there was a green that, because this line was in green originally. Because we had identified the green as a color, and they did the CSS.
Oh, because this is,
Yeah.
oh, did you look at the CSS?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why that's, because they had a different,
Yeah, so,
they had different, okay, because we just assumed it's the same.
that's why CSS. Because also in the instructions, it says you have to start with the CSS.
Okay.
So once, because I changed, I realized the color of the green or something. Changed that.
Yes, that's a good thought. Look at this.
I don't know what that means.
A class, it has a name. Class versus the HTML. That's what it is.
Which line? HTML.
Like in CSS.
Can you see how the print
Class is class name. So if it's a dot,
Oh, that's just.
did you add, is it added?
Let's see, what is,
If it's a noun, it's index, I mean ID.
You have.
But now it's really.
That's the class.
okay, here we go. Class, here we go, selection dot class names to value. Value specified as, oh, it's fine, I'll specify CSS class names. To the select elements to the class attribute.
No, I'm not gonna get it.
So, see, so it's saying in this case,
They never do it.
our thing, we set the class
Get it over.
D,
Sorry.
last line green
I mean,
is true. And then in the CSS,
You can look at this, which CCD was, or the daytime is
There's green.
of that here, I'm assuming it's.
Pattern.
I know.
Oh, yeah, line. Anyway,
And so that connects with your.
Yeah, also because I have
Because I mean, this one, even the fact you are creating, right? The facts you are creating here, there's. So this one, you're also creating.
data attribute, it's a line.
Line. So funny because in the CSS. Oh, here, that's
So
line.
it's complaining about your data.
So here, showing on April 1st.
This is what it is.
How many data points are there? Let's see here.
Void number and.
1, 2,
I really
why
wish
is it
I
not showing? Look, oh, I know. See, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November,
Oh, we don't
December.
have enough. Oh,
January,
it's
February,
not
March,
showing
April.
all the.
Yeah, yeah.
It's 2 years, so there should be 24 points.
So we didn't specify the numbers. Okay, yes, so that's.
Okay, so how do you square it?
Remember that.
Integers are like code
Big and
numbers.
zero.
No, but it should,
Oh,
it should, it should, it should, see, that's what the, that's what the scaling is. It should, that's what the scaling is for. So you create the scales. So let's see here, what does it show here? Yours and mine show the same thing, right? It goes from January, it skips February, March, then it skips May and June, then it skips August, September, and it skips October, November.
There are formats of setting.
Let's see, there's something about the ticks.
This might.
And let's see, but there were 24 points, so this, but let's see, this one, the data on the, goes from 15,000.
Can scale, right? And I think
Yeah, 2,000, the maximum is 20,800.
Not sure.
Here, the 99, to 99 to 0, and this goes to 20,800. So here's 20,000.
just change the name.
I'm doing that.
So your ultimate decision is make sure you're returning this.
Exactly. I want you to do this. Then apply some.
Because the
I
date
know,
was,
it's a very.
the date thing was the same thing as the previous one.
So it's related, right?
Yeah.
So we don't-
Whereas the other one else is you're trying to turn the D, which is in this case, the data into a. Not like, yeah, very careful.
The X, it's for the X. X times, X D, X times go date. Well, that's the line change. So it scales. Except 745. Oh, it's possible. Question. So
just going back to.
that's the chart here,
Okay.
but how come it doesn't show the middle months? Like it goes from January to April to July.
And then whatever you call this function.
So it's probably
Like in the
Fine.
scale.
what are your data again?
Yes.
There's 24 or goes from January 2016, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, December.
Probably is just
This little.
the width is getting evenly divided between the number of months. And it's just being smart to pick it up that way.
So it doesn't, it's not supposed to show each X.
If you do a tick operation, Did you do the trick operation?
No, we just did like the previous
Yeah,
exercise.
yeah, so previous code had the way it did that.
So another bit of
Let's see,
solution says
create the scale.
Right, yeah. You didn't do the tick. You want every single tick, there's a dot tick format. And the dot tick format gets you there.
So
Because that's just a-
That's easy.
So
We
this
just-
was create a logs.
I don't think we have an example.
One instrument.
There's something like, yeah,
I just want to know what's that.
Or like a mini, a later exercise.
Because that's what you're passing.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
So, we got these two errors. It's not loading.
Oh, you're getting the same error.
Unexpected total
let's
marks.
see.
What is an unexpected? Sort of
Yeah.
It's like it's a syntax.
Did anyone
It's
else
saying
have the
that
path error? Two people have path
found
error.
a unexpected
Path
token
error, and then.
at some point. It wasn't
Let's do this. Let's run it line by line and see. Because that path error is, so I think one of the secrets that I saw is that as I said, those who actually wrote the steps that I had asked you to copy and then started coding between those blocks, that helped people, right? At least, I mean, unless you want to be rockstar and just do it, but let's Francis, why don't we walk through with this? So you guys set the width and height, and was it more or less the same? Okay. Yeah, okay, so margin word, this word, chart group, SVG, append G, margin left, margin top. You have these two things here, single quotes. Okay. Data.csv error smurf data. It doesn't matter what you call it. Were you guys able to print the console log? Try that too. Yeah, put that one in. Just so it's not needed. It's not needed. It just one. Yeah. So if you can't get the console log going, then that could be an issue. You guys, most of you probably figured out there's another hyphen and then %Y for all 4 days, right? And then for each smurf data, so whatever you cache in, right? Whatever you do here, whatever variable you use here, smurf data, or whatever data you use, you then make sure dot for each and then function data and data dot blah blah blah, data dot dow index, data dot smurf citing, and you're creating these 3 variables. So make sure you do that. Now, since your smurf data is a function that gets you the data from here, you're using extend, because on X time scale, you want to go from all bits, 0 width. So all the width is from extend. Scale linear, so scale time, then scale linear, 2 of these. And if you had whatever function name you gave here, that function name, and then get the d dot dow index and d dot smurf citing. Make sure that height goes first and 0, height goes first and then 0. So, and if I think what you guys tried to do, Will, is you wanted to have that dynamic range. Forget about that. Go from 0. Oh, so okay. Then axis bottom, this left axis. So I saw when I looked at your code, you didn't have 1 or 2 defined here. That's fine. I mean, you can just do y-linear scale and then y-linear scale too, right? That's fine. But make sure you when you copy the code, axis left and axis right, is that properly called out? Okay. Okay. So move the x-axis by the height, 0, height. Move the y-axis, y1 axis to the left. Left axis, you're moving it left, which is here. Don't move anything else. You just keep it there. The other one, transform, translate width by width, and then line generators for each line, x time scale, y linear scale, 1 with bow index, line 2 with small settings, and then this is pretty much standard. Get the axis names right, the Dow index and stuff, do the calculation fine, 20 and 30. You don't have to change much, pretty much copy paste. And that should do it. Did anything change on your code, Francis? No? Yeah, I couldn't figure it out either. Yeah, it's annoying. It's not giving more error. I would also suggest maybe yeah.
Oh, because I.
Oh, you
So I'm gonna go to the next one for now, and then we're gonna take a break. So so you let's say you define a chart. Okay, I'm not gonna go through how you define a chart. So you have data array, categories. There's a function that you're going to call function make responsive, and that's just adding things in the SVG area. If it's empty, then remove the SVG. But that's standard code. What really I want you to focus on is by doing these clicks, right? So if you click something, how does it change? So let me first actually render the code and go from there. In other words, what we'll do is we'll so what this one is doing is, if you click any of the bars, you want to add the interactivity where you say, hey, you click bar 2, or hey, you click bar 3, or whatever that is, right? So that is what we're trying to accomplish in this code. And other activities, when we hover over the charts, they should turn orange, okay, from green. So there are two things that we're trying to accomplish. Now, we have looked at this before. This is a code that you worked on in the last time with hovering, but we never worked on the click in the messaging. Okay. To add to this thing and get the click messaging going, what you really need to do is, let's say, for example, I'll walk through the code so it's clear. So data array 1, 2, 3, data categories 1, 2, 3. This is the naming. So this one here, if SVG area is not empty, let's say if the this code right here, make responsive, is required for you to effectively scale if your browser shrinks. Okay, no matter where you look, see how the charts start squeezing proper in an order. So this is what this make responsive will do. So like, we'll resize the SVG and add it to the browser. Okay? And so here, I don't say the height and width of the, like I don't I don't say 960 and 500, right? I just say window dot inner height and window dot inner width. What that does is it kind of renders from the browser and shows what height and width I want to pass, right? So if I shrink it in any way or shape or form, it's still look good. Okay. This is good for like mobile responsiveness, right? This is where I think D3 trumps Tableau a little bit, because in Tableau also you can do this, but they have certain default settings. So you can only do like a 13-inch screen laptop, 14, 15. They have iPad Pro, iPad, they have Android tablets. But this is more flexible because it can like just take any device that's manufactured anywhere in the world, okay, of any dimensions and size and screen. So that's really good about D3. Like once you do the charts, it's going to render to wherever you put this one on. Margins is standard. This is a standard code. This one is SVG height and width, but remember SVG height and width is by the window we're looking into. Okay, so that's good. This one is scaling. Scaling's same. Max of data array or X domain of categories. This is a band, and then this we did earlier as well last class. Creating axes, moving chart groups, calling x-axis and y-axis is the same. This whole thing is same, except after all the attributes. Doesn't have to be after, in between, or preferably after is what you do dot on. Okay, so dot on is an action call. So dot on click, send an alert. Alert is that pop up. Hey, you click bar and get the value of the bar that you clicked from the data categories and I. So if it's 0, then it's you click bar 1. There's first. It's click bar 2. It's 3. Then you click bar 3. Okay. Mouse over function. So yeah, mouse over. If you go and you use the this object, and then you say, okay, well, fill with red. Mouse out. As you move the mouse out, it will turn green. That's what this was doing. Right? It was mouse over, it will red. Mouse out, turns back green. Okay, so key learning here is that dot on gives you range of options to have certain actions specific to your charts. Okay, so this also forms the. I'm going to have one more exercise. This also forms the base of your tooltip. So if you look at the tooltip, the tooltip does is, let me show you what the tooltip does. So that. This is what tooltip does. If I open another window, if I hover over it, it's giving me that little tooltip right there. So if I hover over here, it says pizza is in 20. Pizza is in 18. And pizza should be lower than 18, 15. Okay. So this is the introduction to tooltips where what you're trying to do is, first of all, now we've learned that we want to make our charts responsive. This almost becomes our default, okay? And which is this code followed by getting the window.inner width and window.inner height as our SVG width. We're no longer giving 900s or 500s or 600 as that.
So that's just built in. Huh?
That's just built in. We'll just figure it out. We'll do the same math. And this is an array. We're not reading it through CSV. We're just given these numbers. Appending SVG group, same code. Moving things, SVG, same code. Scaling is by length on x-axis, is by maximum number of pizza eaten by month. So this will be, y will be scaled from 0 to 25. Okay. That's y scaling. Then line generation, same. D dot I and then place I, D comma I and then place I and the D. The data point is really the data of pizza, number of pizzas. And then create path, attribute D comma line, and then pass the attribute that you want to plot. And then circles to data points. Right now we're not plotting bars. We have line, and then for the data points we're having these little tiny circles. This one is also responsive. You see, if I zoom out and if I shrink it, it shrinks with me. Right? And so this is super responsive. These little circles are the data points. The data points are marked in red. Have a radius of 5 pixels, really small. Finally, we're looking at is how to get the tooltip. The tooltip is nothing but adding a div to a body. Okay, so a small div tag, HTML tag, and class called tooltip. Then what we do is circles group and on mouse over. So if you get the mouse over there, the dot on, show this style is the block style, which is on your style CSS. That little yellow box that you see. If I go here and you see this box, wait. Go here and hover over this little yellow box you see. That's coming from the style.css, where yellow or orange. And that's where tooltip is defined. That's the color and stuff, height, width, background is orange, text is, radius is this. If you go back here now, this one, so you have that, and then your format is pizzas eaten, and then strong. This is I guess in bold. So we go here. You see the font on the number 22 is darker than the text. So we're getting that. And then this one is style left top. So what this is doing is page X. So what this is doing is left top. So this is giving the position of where that hover happens, and we'll see it better in the. It's actually done better in the next code, which we'll look at. So don't worry about this right now. I'll show you a better way of doing it. And then mouse out, it displays none. Mouse over, it displays all this stuff. And again, when you have to, if you call that make responsive, then you have to call it out at the end. And then this is the code, responsive code that I need to call. So these two lines come from making it responsive. So the key learning here is tooltip is a key feature in most charts. Like when people want to look at the information, they just want to make sure that when you hover over, at least in decent data visualizations, the charts come up enough. You have to make sure that the tool appears for user help. So that's that. Now, when I said that I'll show you a better way of how to change things, it's actually in this code where, let me see. Well, isn't this code? Oh yeah, this one, offset. So it's the offset method. We'll get to that, which actually does make a lot more sense because move the position of the box, the yellow box, whether it appears on the top, on the left, on the bottom, on the right, like where when you hover over, is it going to be like here? That's what it's saying. This here. I typically like the tooltip to be on the top of the icon that you have. So I'm assuming that there are no more lines of that. So we'll look at that. What I want you guys to do is take a 10-minute break, come back by 8:25, and if you're done taking the break, do use the time to look at this instructor tooltips. And Nolan, at the same time, let's push out the solutions for the next one. And guys, do your git pull once Nolan sends the solution. So let's come back at 8:25. And feel free to review that instructor code. And then we'll start again. Excellent.
So what?
There's the CSS for the tooltip.
Okay. Yeah.
So, how, where is it telling you to access the style.css?
That's right.
That's it. That's,
Yeah. That's the style that CSS. That is what. Yeah.
So what's tooltip? Is it for style?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, what is it?
Tooltip? Yeah, it's for style. Yeah, it's a styling. For example, if you plot something, right? If you have like, especially in these kind of thing, right? It's really difficult for me, for a user to like observe and see what is this font exactly correlated to.
Oh, okay.
So with tooltip, if you, when you hover, it will show you exactly what the value of the
Okay.
font is.
Okay, so no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the name sounds like a water like that.
If I like how fast I can hit people with time.
Generating.
How to use a safety.
Except for
What's up? Yeah.
one day you will.
You can buy it if
But
you want
one
to.
day you will, you know.
All right.
I see something, I don't know what it is, but.
Did it. I only sacrificed next.
Then I want to start a company. It's gonna imply me. Oh, right.
You can just use my code.
Yeah.
And I can modify it.
Yeah, but then if you pay that, you can pay new capital markets, right? Hopefully they don't see. What if they will see and they ask them to change
Okay, I've been doing this as what I've been doing.
Let's go. Let's go.
Like running through directories and taking
Have a breather, you know. You've been feeling some today.
I'm in here.
Where?
Only when the file already goes.
Oh, last one.
This is what I've been doing.
Yeah. Outside, you go outside. You have not been out.
Now, I tell you, I'm going to Gallo with my mom. Yeah, so,
Yeah, really good. I'm not complaining. I can if you want. Is today's class being better than? Is it being better?
Not every day.
Almost.
Yeah. Every other day, more like. So, I got time.
Water's dangerous.
What anyone actual recommendation? Exactly.
I thought I tried this morning. And I was ready to start. This one, yeah.
See what it is, what does that is, but.
I used to be one. Ever since I used to be, I'm just like, oh, I'm again.
I think it was that switch.
But yeah, it's hard to.
It's like, you know, they get it without somebody. I can't size. Right now, the target is just like a screen. Like a normal post.
I have to go to bed.
Oh, really? I don't want like 5 years. There's a big like folks are getting smaller. They're getting smaller. It's like, cool. Now they're just very crazy. But I mean, now that's all happening. The big thing goes.
Is she diabetic, hypertensive, and obese?
No. She's never.
Wait till pull it out. Yeah. But I'll never. It's my channel. It's that. Because like half of the thing that you want. But if like I go.
He did. He wants to put up a infection. Because he sees the infection.
She wasn't. She didn't. Well, maybe it was also really super zoomed in because I mean, look at the words. They're pretty big. You know, so probably just.
He's like,
Eight pounds? Oh, he's still big.
8.5, yeah.
Is she diabetic?
Yeah. So they
Gestational, yeah.
they use it. Yeah.
It's not common. It's pretty common. Usually gestational babies are big and then they have really.
They added with me first, but then they put me on a diet.
Yeah, and I want to like.
Because then when it's controlled, if they.
I told you this.
I was always.
Yeah.
Because the doctor really was very
Strict.
It's just like really.
It worked.
Yeah.
worse for me.
Well, think it's like, I feel like even when you're at the game session, you play with teams. Yeah, I think about all this stuff, and then when you're on the course, like just guys all the time. Yeah,
Exactly.
like don't be
And
like.
it's done gestational diabetes.
Let it come down.
And she works nights.
Like keeping
That
the,
usually
like,
makes you.
the radius of your hands to like your witness. Yeah, because I noticed like sometimes like, you know, if you're tripping on these three.
And then just.
And actually, like, you should take it to my bed. Like my throat, like.
35.
How's your? How's your? Yeah, it's fine. Then, I did know I'm thinking that. Pretty stressed. You think I'm pretty, whatever this is called.
Not for me, I don't have that I don't know. I don't have that design. I don't have people be like, oh, my clock is ticking. My clock does not fit.
Well, I didn't think so too.
But you said you had to do like, what, 31? Yeah, I'm 31.
You didn't.
But I'm still not taking. I 31 and stuff. I even know my sister had hers at 34. She was the same. She was just the same. I had hers, but her
Nice.
She's young.
She's like, my thing is like, I don't worry about
It's
this.
just he was older though. Okay.
Yeah, it's getting pretty crowded.
Still. Never know. I mean,
Yeah.
Is Marcus started? Yeah. He's not.
he's very high functioning. Very high functioning.
Oh, okay.
She just has very, very.
There's a range.
She's very high in spectrum. Very
Yeah.
smart, but she's super sensitive. You know, so
I might do that. I might do that.
she's a baby crying, she starts and she gets really upset.
Yeah.
She's very, very smart.
Like up there, and I hit the
It's just
first
the
one.
behavioral that's hard. A lot of them have difficult social skills. They don't have good social skills, so it doesn't have to say.
So there's like.
If other kids don't understand,
Yeah, I don't think that's important.
then she'll get made fun of, you know what I mean? And they're very sensitive. We'll see. And then, you know, when they get to adulthood, like sometimes they don't understand social cues. So then, you know, other people kind of just like, this person's weird. You know, it's hard. It is very hard.
So yeah, I did see
Yeah.
that. One
Like white and black.
I think some weird.
I why they
They don't understand social cues.
But I couldn't stand it, right? So
Yeah, you hit
I
twice,
came
okay?
by.
Isn't it lower his voice?
And then it's.
No, no, no.
And then
Whoever has a vision, like short game of money,
And
if
then
like
the
at
other
least
side.
fun thing to practice. It's like it's like exactly.
So.
Driving some concept. But it's like hunting is half the game. That's true. Yeah. Terrible. And like reading, it's like
It's three strokes to get here.
like when you have to figure out
Another three strokes.
just mathematically hunting is half the game. You look at professional players.
Oh,
Half their strokes come from putts. And you're right, if you look at
No,
non-professional.
it's like vintage.
It's more than, way more.
Okay.
Yeah.
We used to go to Orange County.
Yeah, 500-yard
And
goal.
then they up there
Most of your time.
so we tried, but they have this
Yeah.
special rate.
When you guys like my eight,
Yeah, and
right?
then I found out that they.
You can get the over two, but like
Right,
if
they
you
don't
want
do
to
that
do
anymore,
it,
right?
pretty much. You can run
So we
it
have a
score.
reservation?
No, you can go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because we did like,
Yeah. Because it was like a soft opening.
Oh, Jesus. We're still like-
They were still in a soft opening. So now,
You miss it.
yeah.
You go. I do.
I still don't.
Invited me, I've got. Wait, you were with golf. You should probably. Yeah.
It's good.
Mom is over. You're not doing good. No? Letter bag.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. How is it? Do you like it?
I like this baby.
Maybe I should look at that.
Also,
Yeah, they are.
Now you. About you being on.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, you never saw me. Like,
Oh,
My
okay.
case is kind of special. So. That's it.
Mm.
Like for me, like when I'm like 55 or something like that, you know, without knowing.
You guys have any plans for any of these?
Going to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I'm like.
But yeah.
Yeah, never before, but only for a wedding.
Nice.
I know.
Only like $700 a month
I think you want to work.
There's what? It's like up to 14 bucks.
It's
It's like with 6.
For no for 2 nights or something.
Yeah.
3 days.
I was gonna say.
So.
It's right now, it would be like 5,000, 10,000.
So now it's basically supposed to be over, so we can do something else. Yeah. And that's what they have to do.
So which one?
Yeah.
Just to see.
And normally
It's
that's
a
like
second.
Yeah, right, 19 and I kind of agree. Yeah. And then you have like taxes.
So I need to check with my wife.
What do you think? All right.
Oh, yeah, Hawaii is pretty good.
Like, wow, yeah. I live there. Here we go. What are you gonna do next? Yeah. Yeah, you do math. So, yeah, get a nice massage and then you eat. So we get.
I mean, it's always one throughout the year.
But it's not expensive. They're under.
Under
30.
Like, once a year.
Like,
But
yeah,
everywhere else
the
is-
cost a month.
There's a chocolate there.
Yeah.
Okay.
The water's-
I just have to walk back to the system within the days of
I
most.
go to
But I like to hike it. Because it's so
Yeah.
huge mountain.
Yeah.
And so.
I like it,
there's
yeah.
lots of good things.
Still not well. No way we're gonna get
I could probably go like that. I could go
I'm gonna see around.
I know what I wanna do now.
easily gonna be by weeks.
So they're like well paid. Not like in the middle of nowhere.
It's easier to interact. So it's kind of like the show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I know. Yeah. On the Santa Fe.
Hawaii is
Yeah.
But they're executive board.
Yeah, they're lots of short stuff too.
Okay, let's start.
Okay.
I don't think so. You're welcome. Okay. Yeah.
Hey guys, back to this. Let's- So I did that one. Oh, by the way, do you guys want to try one of these, or let's do this? I'll go through the next one, the instructor tip one, and then we'll get back to, because I'm going to skip this student add tooltips. It's pretty much a repetition of what we just looked at. But highly encourage you to look at it. If we don't cover it today, I don't think we will. This is a Saturday curriculum. I want to make sure that I complete the instructions at least. So, all right. So what's different here is, so let's say you have the make responsive. It's almost going to be a copy paste with these two things down here at the end of it. These two things, make sure that those are called. And this inner width, this is pretty much standard as well. This is standard, this is standard. So you can always, if you're going to start doing your project, if you're actually working on something at work, all up to this is standard, the top, okay? So, you know, so all these 38 lines of code is pretty much standard. Read CSV. Here we don't parse an error. No, we do. We do. Right. I should look at it because it's late and I'm looking like this. It does. So D3 Norway medals. So let's look at what this data set is. Saying how many medals did Norway win on those days. I'm assuming this was a Olympic kind of event, maybe, and was counting medals won on those specific days. The medal data, this is pretty standard. You're just parsing the medal information from date parser. You're parsing the date that was here. Look how time parse time, date parse, all these parsers, you should probably Google and study them a little bit. I think we're covering most of the standard parsers, and your homework should be one of these parsing techniques, scaling techniques, so scale time, scale linear, scale band. What else? Yeah, those are pretty much what people do. Scale log, but that's different. We haven't used that. Key things to remember: range 0.width, height, comma 0, because you're moving from the left top of the window. Creating axis is pretty much same. You specify how many ticks you want. I'll give you only those number of ticks. Okay. Appending axis is also standard. Always x-axis you move down. Y-axis left one you keep it like that. Y right axis is width comma 0, right? Line generation standard again. Path metal data. B-line, fill, none, 0. This is also, the stroke is red, so the line is going to be red. That's standard. And then really what we're doing here is this guy here, initializing tooltip. Actually, like writing tooltips like this than the other method that we looked elsewhere. And this is much, you can change that one too, but this is a little more powerful. I'll show you why. So on the and then the calling the tooltip remains the same. We know this. Strong will give a bold font, etc. Circle groups, mouse over, show the tooltip, mouse out, hide the tooltip, and then that's standard. So let me go and run this code, and I'll show you why it's my favorite way of doing it. Is because. So let me do this. Zero 8. So okay. And you guys should have the code. So feel free if you want to try it with me. And no, wait, this is not what. That got passed in. Okay, you guys probably did. So see how when I hover over, it just shows the date and the medals one. So that's coming from the tooltip. Now, if you want to move that, if you want to, let's say, move it here or on top, and so on and so forth. It's always on the left right now, always on the left of the data set in here. As I said, I like on top of the data set. So I think that's kind of something, I think like 10, 0 or something. 10, 0. See what that does. Save it. And then go back. This needs to be closed. Open another one. Zero. 10, 0 will put it on top of it. So, you know, you can move with those coordinates. So 80, minus 60. It's almost saying like on this direction. Here, I've always liked because typically right on the top of the point, I don't know why that's flickering like that. There you go. So there are different coordinates. You'll see that people want in a certain way, like it this way. You can play with this a little bit, but tooltips with hover, without hover is what we looked at. Is that clear? So, and this is why I really do like calling it this way and making sure that, you know, the hovers also work when you, so in Tableau also, same thing. When you hover things, it will show you tooltips. One of the things that I have done previously, and I think I've said it here multiple times, is marrying D3 with Tableau, because Tableau doesn't have all different kind of charts. So when someone came to me and like said, this is the chart I love, this is how you do it. Okay, so you just basically get the chart online or create your own fragment, rather than saying I can't do it. It takes extra efforts. Make sure that you tell them that it's going to take extra efforts, because people will start buying charts for you on piece of net and giving you weird charts that don't make any sense. So try to keep them in control. Don't tell them that you can do anything for them. Also skill. Anyway, so the next one is what I want you guys to try. Now this one will cover the first tooltip example also. So thing here we have, let me just actually first render this code, so I'll keep that as an output. I think you have the code solution, but I really want you to give it a shot. Activity. So let's close that, and I'll open the chart. This is click-based, and I think it's already on the top. No, I think I probably changed it. It's probably not on the top. I probably changed it. Okay, anyway, so it doesn't matter where it shows. But trying to attempt that. Make sure you get all the names. If you want to make it a hover enable. Yeah. Because, okay. So it's saying number of billboard, 100 hits, and that's funny. So you're saying if your hair's short, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter. I don't think it's dependent. It's completely independent. Anyways, so that's the shorter have more hits. Makes sense. Yeah. Right.
The readme said it's entirely made up.
Oh, really?
You know, have you ever been in a situation where you had to build something random like this? If someone requested something like that? Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, a lot of people would request a lot of stuff which is random.
We have to go through like
Benign and salt.
Like
Salt.
hair stuff? No.
like to this level and like put it Really?
Why not? Right, if you're ready, knock this out.
No, I don't hold it.
Well, no, that's.
Yeah, no.
I don't.
I'm extremely lazy. I know how to, but I'm extremely lazy.
I don't know.
You get coffee. That's what we do.
You know, there's this thing saying.
Did you go to the previous
I'm gonna have it open. What was it that we put something in?
I don't know. Yeah. Someone wants to help me. Yes, what's up?
I'm having a problem when I look around the
I don't know why. Why?
because it's.
Wait.
close all the windows?
Yeah, you've got to keep the cat house open. That's probably causing it.
Okay.
This one? Oh,
Seven and eight were both about the railway metals, but I don't know what's different between the two.
is it the two?
They're both tools.
Center and then, or that's something else?
Wait. What?
I want someone that's in good and tight with that.
That's something just
I don't want to. Hey, move. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you have some hours.
Did we get early enough?
Yeah, that was the best.
Oh, so this is not the date, right?
The boat was.
So this is not.
Hang on one second. Just trying to see.
So it's not, probably not.
So not me because like.
Probably not, because then it's not very expensive.
Okay, so let's see here. We got the.
They have
That's not.
The donut. They overpriced donut. You don't even tell you it's still no. Go away. It's American capitalist. They get me every time. I do. Oh, yeah. You pay full price for it.
Yeah.
You want to be somewhere and stay.
Yeah. Because
If I didn't feel that
you're not wrong. It's those things where it's like,
yeah, and I don't know
Yeah.
but I was like, more specific. Yeah. But I was the idea of
There's like, I feel like to be doing these things. Yeah, like doing
Like this one right now. People who need to talk and this is
That's
yeah.
like that.
or 60 people, right? I remember. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
If you quit with
So it's like, even this, it's all new, it's like fresh for us. I'm not going to get the logic until I type it out. And then like, I feel that.
you want something tangible.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person that needs to work with it. I need to like do something with it. And if I mess it up or break it, then I'll learn that. And a little bit better about I'm saying like the logic. Me just hearing it, or hearing it once, yeah, that makes sense, sure. But then if you have to repeat it, I'm like, all right.
You repeat that?
Huh?
You repeat that?
Or which one?
You just have to.
So, no, because I said it. No, well, I want to do stuff is that I work with stuff and I can like physically do things and see what makes it work and play with it. If I don't play with it, then I have no idea how it works. If someone explains it to me, I can't repeat it back to you. I go, no, that's not true. I'll listen to it and I'll understand. And I can repeat certain points back to you, but I will not fully understand it until I work. So I think like homework is super important to me. So I think like the in-class activities are super important. Until then, I need to like, make a mistake. If that makes sense.
Does your work facilitate enough time?
Yeah, but
Usually, yes. The only times that I get this homework is arguably physical. That's just because I'm trying to balance out like work and parenting.
Oh, when they come from?
They're coming in San Francisco. I
When
don't
are they coming?
Oh, they're already here.
What is the concept of your?
Why do you hire chicken box?
Yeah, as you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Totally. The minus
Their
here.
data blah, right? So instead of 8 parts, you just write plus.
It's kind of go through more of a nightmare.
Dot, yeah,
Like, for Tricia.
Yeah, exactly.
If we were to do a phrase, inside of
Not many people. I think so.
Oh my gosh.
You just have to add the beginning and once you write the statement, it's usually back, like we got all the text.
But people who live in the only they know. That is something that unfortunately.
Yeah. You can use full stack.
Yeah.
For example, every single
Correct.
This will start.
Yeah.
No, it won't. Depending on which containers. Which.
The first time is that if you are in a block of version like mine,
It goes in a bootstrap. I'll send some examples.
you are going to. That's how it is. That is so to be initially, you know, your tenant is inside.
Yeah.
Initially, you know,
Not code,
you
right?
need to call it the height. It's like when you're using this. So there's like high,
Okay. Let's move on to the next item. Any questions here? Any questions? Guys, questions?
Yeah, why is it extend?
because
What
it's
is,
that one.
Extend. Extend. Why is it
why is
extend?
why is it max instead of extend?
Yeah, why is it extend? Who we talked about it last class. Extend is what? D3 dot extend range. So in min and max both. Okay. So then you don't have to do it manually. Okay. Next. Transitions. Okay. It's better. It's quickly explained. I don't know how to verbalize this. Let me just show you what it does. So.
Oh yeah, cool. Do I do a link? Oh, but no. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm the only one who has it.
Oh, it does like I just started this scale at 20 because there's no data short of 20.
So it starts there. I see. Okay.
I don't know what I mean with this information is that true in your culture? Yeah, you the migrants.
That's like, that's almost 7 feet.
I've never seen anyone this kind of this. I can't believe
I can say with this comes big philosophy.
Yeah, you know, And this classroom because
It's a democracy.
Switch on commence. If the TA itself is leaving,
So
that's how it works.
let's
You may not see this.
okay, let's look at this these kind of things, right? So it'll be nice to do this. You guys, can we can I have your attention? Yeah. So okay, so we're doing static things. Now we kind of trying to make those fancy. So when you look at those like things that move and crawl and go everywhere on the page, these kind of things make it interactive animations or transitions, what we call. It's not that difficult to do this because it's just another dot transition kind of stuff. So what we're doing here is making sure that when we are transitioning, so we tell what happens. So for example, if you mouse over, you have a bigger radius, light blue stuff, and when you mouse out, you have a smaller radius, red thing, right, red circle. So that's what happens, right? And also, so this is the code that gives you the transition on page load. So what happens is with the page load, the circles move and they just go on their desired place. They start from 0, 0 to where they need to go. So for each of the X scale, you get the X scale rendered in CY, you get the Y scale rendered, and they know where to go for each of the data points. So you get render it starts from right there, and just knows where to go. So that's the code, and there are so many cool things. Like if you, so that's why I highly encourage that you guys go B3, and then go here. Make sure you go to these examples, gallery examples. Go to these. Try and look at one of these codes that you have here, and you will find transitions. Let's see. So this one here should have a transition or something I can mention here. That is the data that it's giving. This is actually doing it with move to function on input, control header. This is moving, so this is on page load. It just moves. So this is happening because of this function here. Move to. So move to, it's saying go to it moves from here. Let me find a transition example. Not that, not that. This is also the same similar code. Actually, it just has more nodes. And this is what's doing. Move to example. Move to another way of transitioning. What is this? This is a data about quad trees. So you can either try, since we're in the class, you can either try taking one of these and then having an HTML file set up and see how that goes, or you can go and try to finish this exercise, which is the hair metal conclusion. So when you do that, I think this is what will force you to do a transition here. And e dot dot. And go back. Let's try. there are a lot of functions that we probably haven't covered here, and this is the last class of D3, but
How often do you use D3?
I mostly use it with Tableau. So yeah, nowadays I use with Tableau. I really don't publish things with web servers like that because Tableau gives you a web server. I'll bring mine. One day. Sure. So anyway, it doesn't you don't have to create this web server and there's a lot of other things, right? So if you publish this, right, let's say in an organization, if I publish this, but I have executives that need to look at an organization that doesn't know. Good example is, let's say if I'm working with sales department, okay? Now the sales VP should be able to see the quota and the performance of all of his direct reports, sales directors. Sales directors should only look at the sales managers, right? Sales managers should look at sales engineers and all their performance. But one sales manager should be able to see other sales managers' information. Typically in companies, you have the sales manager that has his compensation structure different than this sales manager, depending on how they negotiate their deal. So you really don't have, you don't want to give access to the access management of the company, right? So on top of like, you can do this cool stuff, but that's great when everybody needs, I mean, you can do access management with this also, but then you're almost developing another product, right? So, or like the CFO should look at the entire company financials. But sometimes you don't want each manager to know the entire company financials, the budgets, and all that stuff, because then they'll start playing the game. Oh, that guy gets that budget. Why don't I get that budget? Or that guy gets that commission. Why don't I get that commission? So with Tableau, there's a whole way of like creating those security layers. It's really powerful with how you can distribute your content, how you can restrict people that shouldn't look at that content. Plus, if I took the responsibility of developing this, and tomorrow, let's say my server got hacked, like where I posted everything, right? It has company sensitive information. So that's the risk that you have. And you can do it with this. Don't get me wrong, Facebook, Google, kind companies do all the original development in this. They have figured it out. They have amount of human capital deployed to solve these things. And they know that they actually started with that business. So that's a different thing. For most of the companies, they don't have that kind of human capital deployed to these kind of secure things. Maybe Qualcomm has it, maybe Illumina has it in this county, but a lot of companies, I mean, Illumina uses Tableau, Qualcomm uses Tableau. It's easy. User management is easy. Security is better. Security within the groups is good. If you can't see other person's information, salary information, right? So we create a lot of dashboards from Workday. And there are ways you can even like, I can't see the information, but only even if I'm developing stuff, like you can encrypt the information, the boss can only see the information, you can put all those criteria and stuff.
Or if you're trying to use Tableau for a new system or anything, and like this system, this won't allow us to like directly connect to their servers.
Who would?
On this.
Okay, yeah, they would, yeah.
So
So they're giving you APIs. Or, yeah.
It's a little complicated. I don't know if it's changed, but like you're not allowing us to directly access it.
So a lot of times you will see that on base or like companies don't like Workday doesn't give me access to their database. Why do you think they don't want to give me access to their database? What if Workday gave me access to their database? What would happen? Huh? Yeah, performance good. Yeah, I query a lot, you know. I'll put a lot of stress on them. So
They have access to all your data.
Huh? No. Like if they don't even want to give me my company's email information, they don't even want to give me like area where. And so that's something that a lot of companies will do. Why do you think so? I mean, performance is a good reason because then if I know this email and I'm going to. No, I mean I can hack, but I think they're a little sensitive about it, and you're right. So I can hack. Or the worst, if I understand their data structure and how they've done it, that's it. I can start another workday.
They also want to.
Yeah, they don't want to have that easy access out there on how they have done their secret sauce of how data connects. So what they do is they really give you an API call. That's all they will give you. So say, okay, here's an API call, tell us what you want, and they have standard API calls, so you can get all the information, then you have to go build it. They don't want to tell you how exactly this is going. So that's why maybe on-day doesn't give you the information, because they are afraid of you. That, if you start a company and if you have your own database, don't give anybody how.
But if you don't know the structure of the data, aren't you limited to the types of questions you can run to understand?
Correct. Yeah. And so there's an upsell opportunity, right? So they will say, oh, we'll give you reports. Why do you need data? We'll sell you reports and dashboards that you need. But that plugin is at least $25 per user per month. Blah, 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 blah. That's what Salesforce will like.
Yeah.
So they make it a monetization strategy also. API calls are free. API calls, only few companies have given the ODBC access. Any other questions? So,
I guess it'd be different if it was like, since it's a cloud application, it could be different if it was like an on-prem.
yeah, it was an on-prem application, yeah, right. So when it used to be an on-prem application, that's why people don't want to create on-prem application, because then then you have to give the database installation, and once you give database installation, yeah.
What's an on-prem?
On-premise. So on-premise. So if I had my server, so there in early days, you would have a server room. If you order the software, they will send you CD, DVD, they will give you a database server, CD or DVD. Your IT person will go and install the database, and they will give you serial instructions. The application server will be installed. Then they will give you certain instructions how to set up that communication call, protocol, and all that stuff. And then the application server clients are on the machine. So they'll stop doing all that, because they do it up in the server cloud. Yeah.
So like, think about like your tower and desktop. That's like, just think about it like that, like, you could have, if you have your own business, it's like a mom and pop shop, you can have that download and have like a server. So how you can download something, that's obviously long, since like we use on server and stuff. We're using cloud now, so they have on-prem, since they allow you to, have the ability to purchase something, having it on-prem, like you have all access to your own data. And on the cloud, they're hosting it, so they don't want to really have any, it's like walled gardens, they might have 1,000 companies or more, but there's no way to penetrate their data, so.
Okay, so back to this again, and that was a good conversation. I want you guys to either try this one on your own, or go back and pick an example. Really, you should be able to pick simple example. Create a CSV file if you like, and see if you can visualize. You do bubble chart. Go get some data. I mean, this data is coming from this CSV. Okay, so this is the CSV where the data is coming from, and this is the CSV coming from. If you change this data, I mean, this is a little complex data set, but you can try it with small sets of such data sets and have your data file figured out, have your, let me pick a simpler example here. Yeah, go ahead and create a, create a simple example that will help you. This is also a good one. There's so much more on DT that will. trying to find an example of these. Okay, try this one. This one's an easy one. This is so that one you can make the different values. Bar chart with negative values, and here's a code. So this will be your index for HTML. Like pretty much giving you the index for HTML. This is your data, and it's a PSV is cast value file. You can create so that between A and minus 15 there is a tab. You can create a CSV using commas, and yeah, so this is the perfect example. Like you can, and then you can, yeah, I think this is a good one to try. Or if you want to keep looking, you can keep looking. I mean, there are plenty of good, easy ones to try. That one is a good one. I think everyone should probably try that one. I'll give you some confidence that you can pick up a code from somewhere and then boom, do it. But then 15 minutes if you want. Yes.
Here we're gonna do this.
This, yeah, that's the link to this.
So we're gonna do this. Like just copy it and show it in our
Yeah, no. I think once you get through the top courses, also you have the, and then so usually, yeah, I think this yeah, sometimes yeah, because I mean, that's like
Yeah, copy. I think this was pretty good, right? I'm just putting it on 12. Like for example, yeah, I'm putting it on 12. I'm putting it on 12. So put it on 12 and then
So yeah, is anyone able to get the charts? Yeah.
Here it is. Yeah, this is the man. So, yeah, let's try.
How do you convert it to CSV?
Put TSV,
Yeah.
Put comma, you put comma.
With a tab separate. Let's see. What was that? You have to, yeah, this is,
What do you do? Just new files and then paste it and then save it as a CSV?
So think about it, like, you know, you go
let's
to
see.
panel,
Let's see.
And then comma, right? You said comma, and
correct,
take out
and the
the space.
HTML.
Let's see, where you go to save
Yeah,
that.
Action that's the, and you will have to make the style. You start with this.
How about the heading? We could do
What I'll do is
Is there a comment?
one of the posters that we already worked on, copy that. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the best way to use Slack.cs and then you turn it on.
There you go. Why are you I don't know what are you talking about.
Okay, so the easiest way would be that you have a folder, you copy the folder, let's say a line chart or a bar chart folder, right? So you copy that and you create another folder and then you call it negative chart or something like that. Negative bar chart. And then with this folder, you'll also get style.css, right? Because you'll see, and then you'll get app.js copied, and then you'll get index.html, right? And then you'll get .csv or tsv. So just .csv, let's say, data.csv, right? You get all these, and then from the code that you're copying, put one in style.css, put the app.js piece into app.js HTML, make sure that you get it properly, and then do this file. Okay. So that's the fastest way to do it if you want to. You can do TSV. It doesn't have to be.
Well, you want to
Create an empty folder called line chart.
Not empty folder. So I could do, let's say, this one, right? Okay. So let's do this. Copy and a new. Oh no, I don't want to do this one. Okay.
The code is TSV, so I copied it and saved as a TSV.
Did it work? Yeah. You want to walk people through how you did it?
I just copied and pasted it.
Yeah, copy and paste it. So
I created index.html,
correct.
copied and pasted it, then I copied and pasted the data into a data.tsv.
Yeah, come on here. Show this. You have HTML? HTML? No. HTML?
No, I don't.
Let me try. Where's that? Oh, that's so weird.